Okay.
Up to you.
Okay, but first of all, I would like to thank Ibu Ana for inviting me to join this class. I love giving lecture to and sharing my experience because my first degree is biochemistry and microbiology. My PhD, I didn't do masters. I straight from first degree, I convert to PhD in plant biochemistry in University Putra, Malaysia. So within 5 years, I get my PhD. My first degree is 4 years. So I think around 9 years finished, all gone. Okay, so I hope if you have any difficulties to understand my words, because I'm not using very English slang. I'm using Malaysian language slang. So if you have any difficulties to understand what I'm trying to explain, please raise your hand, or you can even chat with me so I can reply back if you have any question. The most important thing, you can share clearly what I tried to mention, and then try to get as much as possible to this subject matter, because I only given 2 hours, but the topic on the metabolism itself is very huge. But I try to make it simple so that you can have more time we have more time to go to finish within the time that given to me. Okay, before we begin to the specific topic on the carbohydrate metabolism, let we look into the introduction. What is a metabolism? So let slideshow. Okay, so introduction onto metabolism. What is metabolism? Okay, in biochemistry, basically, there are a few questions that you need to ask before you can proceed with the metabolism, which is the 3W1H, which is 3W1H. What is 3W? So before we begin any discussion on the metabolism, we have to ask the first H, first W, which is where the reaction will take place. Okay, where. Then the second one is why the reaction is happen, and then the third one is how. Yeah, the first H is how. So where, what, when, why, and how. Okay, so these are 4 questions that you should ask, or you can use as what we call guideline to understand the biochemical process. Okay? So when we discuss about metabolism, we always ask where the metabolism, the process occur, what are the metabolites involved, why the process is occurred, and then how the process is happening. So meaning that in general, biochemistry is it needs very critical thinking. So in this case, when we discuss about metabolism, it's not just on the subject matter, but it's about how you think or you nurture yourself into the critical thinking, because the subject matter sometimes we not use in our life. But the most important is that the gist from the exercise of learning metabolism in the biochemistry that you will use when you enroll into industry soon. Okay, So not the contents per se, because the content just for academic purposes, which is for your exam. Then after that, maybe no longer uses. But the most important thing is what are the gist behind all the subject that we have discussed, which is where the process occur, what are the substance, where, what, when is occur, and then how the process is going on. So this is 3W1H. So because in life, if you can counter these 3W and 1H properly, then inshallah you are be a good critical thinking and you can survive in your life. That is the most crucial thing when we discuss about metabolism. Okay, so what is metabolism? I go very quickly. So metabolism in general, we can say it as all chemical reactions occurring in living organism systems. So living organisms here is plants, animals, bacteria, and fungi. So the process that living in organisms can be divided into two, which is catabolism. Catabolism is splitting or breakdown of metabolites in living things, okay, which is involve the oxidation process in chemical or chemistry of the oxidation, the production of energy, and exogeny. Okay, and then the second part of the metabolism is the anabolism. So if somebody say name is Anna, meaning she is involved in the synthesis. Okay, so that's how we what we call synonym, so that we can easily to understand. So Anna is synthesized using energy, but the process involved in anabolism normally is reduction. Okay, so the redox process involved in the metabolism. Okay, catabolism is the oxidation, and anabolism is the reduction, which is utilize the energy that involve the endogenic. So these two are contradict to each other. Okay. Okay, so in living things, these are the circular that we can see for plant, for instance, or some living bacteria, which is the green sulfur bacteria. They can capture the energy from light or sunlight, and then they get the nutrient as the food source, and then by using the anabolism, so they can produce the biopolymer, which is useful for our life. We are the consumer. And then the biopolymer produced by plant, which is the main producer, and the food, when we consume as a food, then the process will undergo to the catabolism. So this is how the anabolism and catabolism are connected in living things. Okay. Of course, when the process occurs, there will be some waste that we have to take account. And then the main products from the catabolism is the energy and the building blocks, which is the intermediates metabolite. Okay? So if you understand all this concept, it's easy for you in any metabolism, these are the things that you have to think how they are linked. Okay, and the energy that produced can be used for living things. Okay, so here the important is the energy by the catabolism and used by the anabolism, and then the product from the metabolism is the building blocks metabolite for cellular function, and sometimes we produce waste. Okay, I hope you can clearly follow my diagram. Of course, this diagram or this metabolism, it can be in many forms, right? It can be in linear process, it can be a closed loop, or can be a spiral form. Okay, so it can be multi-step pathway, compartmentalization, and involve some flux or metabolite flow rates. This is something that sometimes makes most of the biochemical students quite difficult to follow, because it involves so many flux and metabolites flow rate. But normally students just memorize. Okay, but memorizing is good, but to understand the regulation, that is another aspect you have to take account, because in life regulation or control of the process is more important than understand the substance. Okay, so meaning that when the process is going on, what are the consequences from any biochemical process? Okay, and then if the process cannot go through this way, what are the alternative pathway that can be used in order to reach to the next, or to reach to the ends? So meaning here, these are the critical thinking comes in, because biochemical process is not always a one-way step. It normally involves is a go and back, meaning two-way. Okay, and then if the process involved is a one-way process, meaning that is the regulatory side, meaning that the process, if that reaction occur, okay, if you can follow me, in any single direction, if the process is already occur, meaning that it cannot turn back. So meaning that single direction, which is one-way direction, is the regulatory sides. Meaning that all organisms have to think. Of course, this process is not think by our brain, but think by the chemical in the cycle. So for those reactions that can be two ways, there is no issue, because after there are enough products, they can turn back to the substrate. But if the process is one way, this process is very critical, then it might be considered as the regulatory side. Okay, so I hope you can follow me. We'll look. Okay, this is what I mentioned previously. The three types of the reactions occur in a living things or metabolism, which is these are linear form, closed slope form, and then spiral form. You can see that this is more headache, right? But it's not to worry. This is life all about. Okay? Because all the substance inside here is normal that exists in your body. So if To make you easy to understand, you just look into your hand and you can just remember it, because all these chemicals are present in your body, okay, in your cells. Okay, flux. These are the flux. This is what I mean previously. Flux is a control depend on substrate supply, product transition, and enzyme activity. Because in living thing, the catalyst is the enzyme. Enzyme is a proteins. So protein is depend on the few factors, which is I won't touch in this subject. So the mechanism, it depends on the substrate. If the substrate is enough, then the process can be moved forward or catalyzed by enzyme very quickly to produce the product. If the product is enough, then the process can be stopped. But if we don't have enough supply, then we can delay the production process. Or sometimes some of the product can be reversed back to the supply. Okay. So these are the overall philosophy of the flux, what is happening in living things. So it can be abache or whatever. So it depends. Okay. So these are the what I'm giving to you is the overall picture of the metabolism before we go to the specific subject matters. Okay. Okay, enzyme activity control can be allosterate control, which is covalent modification in substrate cycle. Then enzyme is controlled by gene. Okay. And then, of course, energy-rich compound and reaction, normally they are coupling that involve the oxidation, which is the loss of electron and loss of proton. The reduction is receiving of the electron or receiving the proton. So I think for the chemical science students should be no issues, but the issue is not how we link this electron and proton translocation with the oxidation and the reduction. So when we say about oxidation, of course, is the process normally involve the loss of electron or proton, but reduction is receiving of electron or proton. And then during the reaction, normally involves so many cofactors. Okay, so, or we call as a helper. So helper in a process that during the catalyzation of or metabolism, we call as a cofactor. There are so many type of cofactor that which is it can be organics and also can be inorganics. So organic here, for instance, vitamins. So the vitamin that we're taken when we have I have fever, for instance, actually they are acting as a cofactor in our body. They are not involved in any detoxification of the infection. They are act as a cofactor to enhance the metabolism process in our body. Another type of cofactor is the minerals. So sometimes we are taking, for instance, ferrums, magnesium, because these are minerals that needs by our body as a cofactor to help the metabolism process in our body. So in here, I'm using our body as a sample because it's easy rather than lose other sample for the discussion, because always we have sometimes we feel that not very well. It may be the reaction that happened in our body due to the infection. Then how to overcome? Sometimes we're quite sleepy, but lazy cannot be counter by this taking of vitamin and mineral. But if you feel sleepy or not very energetic, you can take some minerals or some vitamin to boost your energy, meaning that we are enhancing the metabolism so that we're more energetic. Okay, so somehow we can also treat ourselves without see the doctor to prescribe any drugs. But for you all, in case in now is very young, so not many issues. But for the elders, sometimes they need to take vitamins and mineral in order to boost the metabolism in their cells so they can enough energy so they can move, or else they just sleep. So that's why getting static is not very good for the elders. So they have to move, at least walking around the house and then take some vitamin C and vitamins. So for those who have mother or father or grandma and grandpa, don't let them sleep because this will cause them getting worse. So you should ask them to walk slowly and take some vitamin, take some mineral so that they can maintain their life and getting stronger, longer. Okay. So the source of energy in living things, there are many, but the three things that commonly considered as the primary source of the energy in living things are carbohydrates, lipids or fats, and the third one is the proteins. So for this 2 hours lecture, I may focus on the primary substance that we consume quite huge amount, which is the carbohydrates. Compared to lipids and the proteins. Because I think we are Asian, take a lot of carbohydrates in form of rice, right? So rice is the major source of carbohydrates. Also, you can get carbohydrate from wheat, from any sort of breads. But lipid, of course, you can get from milks. Milk also give you proteins, or you can get from meat, meat from cow or beef. Okay, so they are the source of the metabolite that can be consumed to produce energy. Of course, when we consume all these carbohydrates, lipids, or fats or protein, they will undergo into the catabolism to produce the ATP, and then some of the end product from the catabolism will use for the synthesis of a new building block to synthesis our new cells so that we can getting bigger. Okay, so in this case, carbohydrate, lipids, and protein, they are not separate pathway. They are linked together. Sometimes people say that, oh, I want to maintain my body shape by not having fats, but you consume a lot of carbohydrates. That is wrong, actually, because carbohydrates consumption also can increase your body weight. Okay, so the only compound that can maintain your body weight is a protein, because protein have less carbon source. Okay, less carbon source. Then degradation of protein or catalytic metabolism of protein need a lot of energy. Similarly to the metabolism of lipids. That's why if you consume a lot of, for instance, soup, meaning any soup which is contain a lot of oil, then your body start sweating. So the sweating is due to the process of the catabolism of lipids. But normally when we consume carbohydrate, we are not really sweating because the process of the catabolism carbohydrate compared to lipids, more is a less energy. Okay? So these are the theory that we can use for to maintain our body shape as well. Okay? So energy that produce or use in living things, it can be used for doing works. Then, of course, this will involve the kinetics and potential in the form of energy in living things are in the ATP. Okay, so these are overall pictures of the energy cycle in the world. So energy from light taken by plant, and then they're producing sugar, which is a carbohydrate, consumed by this animal, and then there's some waste, which is carbohydrate, consumed by the plant, and then during this process, they produce the ATP. Okay. Actually, they are not one single type of energy that or we call as a cellular energy. There are many type of cellular energy, but normally we are focused on the ATP. The type of cellular energy that produced during the metabolism or utilized during the metabolism are either the ATP, which is the adenosine triphosphate, adenosine diphosphate, adenosine monophosphate, phosphate ion, pyrophosphate, and sometimes other type of nucleoside, which is we change the A with G, U, or C. Okay, this is adenine, guanine, uracil, and cytosine, which is the base. Okay, I think I do not know either you have learned all these things, but these are the difference is the base that link to the phosphate matter. So the phosphate is the cellular energy form. So these are the ATP. So ATP, which is the base. These are the adenine. These are the sugar. Then these are the phosphate. They are linked by phosphodiester bond. So what type of sugar is this? These are deoxyribose. Okay. This is deoxyribose. Dioxy, OH, which is this ribose, which is 5-member ring, which is they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 member, and 5 carbon, and 1 O. 1, 2, 3, 4, which is ribose, dioxyribose. This is the base of the adenine. This is the chemistry of the ATP. Free energy at the phosphor android bond, transfer group is a phosphorylate groups. Okay. So process of ATP production and hydrolysis or energy transfer and ATP production, we go 3 major steps, okay, which is a photophosphorylation, substrate level phosphorylation and oxidative phosphorylation. Okay. So we divide the process involvement of the transfer and the transpiration of the phosphate group during the metabolism in a three-level phosphorylation, substrate level of phosphorylation, and oxidative phosphorylation. So you can see here, phosphate is very important. And phosphate is not just used by plant, but also phosphate is important for animal and human as well, as a source of building block for ATP production. So from ATP, if the phosphate is removed, then you get the ADP. Then if two phosphate is removed, then you get the AMP, adenosine monophosphate. Okay, so the overall metabolic pathway that occurs in living thing, if you look here, is very tedious. Okay, but don't be scared. This is life all about. This is our life. What is happening is our tissue. So if you can share all the process in your cell, you cannot sleep because they are very busy now in your cell. So, but Alhamdulillah, God create that we cannot share what is happening in our cell. But actually, this process is going on, right? Or else we cannot communicate. Right? But in your cell, this process is going on. So here we have the polysaccharide, which is the carbohydrate. Then they will degrade. Okay, here I give the different line. Catabolic pathway, the yellow, okay? Anabolic, the blue, and the tiny one, which is the electron flow, the tiny one, supposed to should be the another color. Okay, so polysaccharide, you get monosaccharide, example of monosaccharide, which is the glucose. And then from the glucose, you can have this glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, and then pyruvate, 3 carbons, acetyl-CoA, acetyl-CoA, 2 carbon, and then acetyl-CoA will enter the citric acid cycle or Krebs cycle. Then after this, the ATP, the NADPH produced from the Krebs cycle will go to the electron transport change for production of ATP. Okay, I hope you can follow. But similarly, if you take lipids, follow me, lipid you can have fatty acid or glycerol. They not go to glucose, they will go to glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Is it too fast? Still can follow, We go slowly because these are the of process. You need to get the of feature before you go to the depth. If you have this of feature, there's no issue. Okay? Then you can maintain your body weight and it's easy for you to understand the process. Because otherwise, the rest is just too academics. And these are the concept of the metabolism pathway, metabolic pathway in all living things. So polysaccharide, glucose, pyruvate, acetyl-CoA, and the citric acid cycle is the central pathway. If you have lipids, you can either in form of glycerol or fatty acid. Glycerol will go to glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Then similarly, from fatty acid, you can go to acetyl-CoA. But you have a protein. From the protein, if you take protein, you get the amino acid, you go to pyruvate. Some amino acid can enter convert straight away to acetyl-CoA. Some amino acid can straight away enter the Krebs cycle or TCA cycle, but always ammonia is the waste from the taking of protein or amino acid. Okay, that's why if you take a lot of protein-based food, for instance, then you will put off, you will release this ammonia, right? Then your friend will smell, oh, you are very stingy, right? So this is due to the ammonia from the food that you are consumed yesterday. Okay? So if you take a lot of protein, then you produce ammonia. So we are producing ammonia, but we didn't collect the ammonia, but ammonia is needed by plant, right? But sometimes we also can consume, acid nucleic, which is present in the nucleic acid rich foods, for instance, flour. So from the flour, broccoli, for instance. So you can have this protein, then you can have the monosaccharide. Then after all, they will go the similar one. And then if look here, there are some arrows that are just one way, but there are some arrows that are two ways, which is go and back. So here we can see that glucose, but here we look here, focus here. From acetyl-CoA to Krebs cycle, there is no backward arrow. Can you see that? What does it mean? Meaning that acetyl-CoA is the regulatory site for the main metabolic pathway. For any substrate, which is either protein, polysaccharide, or lipid, after they are converted into acetyl-CoA, the acetyl-CoA must be the final product, and then our body must think, we will enter the Krebs cycle or not? Because if we enter the Krebs cycle, then it cannot turn back to the main product. But somehow they also can turn back, but through other long pathway. If you look here, the only pathway after the enter the Krebs cycle that we can get back the metabolite as through the amino acid pathway. Then from amino acid pathway, then they will go back to the carbohydrate pathway, which is go to the pyruvate, then, or they can go to glyceraldehyde triphosphate, and then they go back to lipids. This is how the process of getting fat occur, meaning that your accumulated acetyl-CoA, they convert back to amino acid, then they go back to glyceraldehyde triphosphate, then they go back to lipid, and they store your lipids in your adipose tissue. Okay, I think by now most of you not so that cause of obesity stage, because you are very energetic, right? But this is when some of us have this problem. Okay, so if you have any issue on this pathway, I do not know either Ibu Ana want this pathway, I can give to you, then you can share with your students soon, right? Okay. So that's about a general idea of the metabolic pathway. We not even enter the pathway yet. I think, I don't know either we have time or not. Ibu Ana can remind me to stop wherever possible.
Okay.
Because the rest is just very technical. the technical thing for me is not major issue. You can just copy from any book, but the concept is very important. If you understand the concept, the rest is just like we copy nuts. Okay, in our life, if you understand the concept, the rest will be easy. Okay. If you look in the pathway, there are two other pathway that important other than central pathway, which is the glycolysis and gluconeogenesis. Okay, glyco meaning any sugar, lysis splitting, then gluco meaning glucose, neo is a new, genesis is synthesis. So this is happen here, which is from the pyruvate to glucose or glucose to pyruvate. Then from pyruvate to acetyl-CoA is one step, is one regulatory regulatory site. The another regulatory site is there from acetyl-CoA to the citric acid cycle. This process is occur in the organism that involve the aerobic condition, meaning that where the oxygen are available. Okay, but for the organism that grow in anaerobic condition, they are not proceed with this cycle. Okay, so this is for the aerobic organism, which is the where the organism have an ability to use oxygen, because oxygen is the electron acceptor for the production of the ATP on the electron transport change. Okay? Can you follow me? Ibu Ana should be no issue. I mean, if you have any issue to understand, please, huh? Okay?
Yeah, because I teach metabolism so many times, so it's not maybe student because this is new for them about metabolism. Jadi boleh tanya in bahasa Indonesia ya kalau misalnya nggak paham in English. Ini sebetulnya masih background ya, background belum masuk ke metabolisme itu sendiri. Jadi ini main pathway untuk semua metabolisme yang saling berkaitan. Jadi jalur metabolisme karbohidrat, protein, lipid, dan asam nukleat itu semuanya saling berkaitan satu sama lain seperti itu. Ya, nggak apa-apa nanti belajar detail lagi bisa belajar di kelas juga. Okay, we can continue.
Okay, we go to the carbohydrate metabolism. Okay, carbohydrate metabolism involve a few pathways. From this diagram, carbohydrate metabolism involve the one is a glycolysis, which is a lysis of glucose, and then we can have this aerobic fermentation, which is in the presence of oxygen. And then the process from the glycolysis, which is the acetyl-CoA, will go the TCA cycle, electron transport change. In anaerobic condition, which is in the lack of oxygen, the process will go to the fermentation. For instance, production of tape. I think similar words used by Indonesian, tape.
You have tape in Malaysia?
Yeah, we have tapai. Because it's involved the anaerobic, because this is involved in the industry for production of lactate or acid lactic and the ethanol, because these are the biofuel currently, because ethanol that used as biofuel is produced from the anaerobic reaction after the glycolysis in the inadequate of the oxygen normally produced by the bacteria. Okay. And then glycosylic cycle is only happen in plant. Okay. Gluconeogenesis in all organism. And then another one that's specific to plant is a pentose phosphate plant and animals is a pentose phosphate pathway that involve the production of another metabolite that can cause a disease due to the lack of certain enzyme that you cannot consume certain bean. So meaning carbohydrate metabolism is very huge pathway. So I don't think I can cover all, but at least we can cover some until at least glycolysis until these three. The rest I think you can read from the textbook. But if you understand about all of the diagram that I give to you, then it's easy for you to follow. Okay. Okay, now go back to living things. So in another form, carbohydrates main metabolic pathway. Okay, look here. Glycogen, which is our stored carbohydrate, proceed with glycogenolysis, you produce glucose. Then from glucose, we undergo glycolysis. Then we get the pyruvate. Pyruvate, if it reverse back, it can go through gluconeogenesis to glucose. And from glucose, so using insulin, we can get back the glycogen. Okay, so the hormone insulin is a hormone that important for production of stored carbohydrate in our body. So those who have diabetic, there are two types of diabetic, insulin dependent and insulin independent is due to the amount, the insulin dependent is due to the low amount of insulin, meaning that those who are unable to store the glycogen, that can also cause the diabetics. Okay. And then from glucose, the glucose will be used as another pathway that glucose can enter is the pentose phosphate pathway for production of NADPH. Okay. And the ribose 5-phosphate, because this ribose 5-phosphate is the main substance for the adenosine triphosphate, because the ribose sugar is the component of the ATP, as I mentioned previously, right? The sugar ribose. Okay, the sugar ribose actually it came from glucose after they undergo this pentose phosphate pathway. But we consume the rice, which is carbohydrate. We got the glucose. Glucose can go to pathway. We get the ribose. Okay, during the glycolysis, you produce ATP and NADPH. But the number of ATP produced from glycolysis is very limited. Okay? Only how many? Maybe 6. Okay, the maximum. And then from pyruvate, they have 3 other pathway that can be pursued, which is the anaerobic in the muscle, So when you run, your muscle won't have enough energy, so you get fatigue. And then during that insufficient of oxygen, your muscle also do the anaerobic reactions. Then it causes the accumulation of lactate. Then you get cramp. So the cramp, you know cramp? What is it in bahasa?
Kram.
Cramp lah.
Kram, ya.
Cramp, eh? Actually, it's due to your muscle doesn't have enough oxygen. So due to the accumulation of lactate. Okay, so make sure if you want to do some exercise, make sure that you have some you have enough oxygen so that you can get this issue. Or you can also use this one. So lactate is not involved in yeast. Lactate is our muscle. In yeast, they produce ethanol. This is the tape. Okay. That's why when you produce a tape, they are sweet due to the glucose, and then you get ethanol, you get higher, okay, and then sometimes getting sour after the ethanol be converted to acetic, okay, apa acetic cuka apa, okay,
Cukai, ya.
cuka. And then acetyl-CoA, we undergo to the Krebs cycle. Okay. Until sure, do you have any question to ask me? I would like to see.
Silakan.
Do you have any question? Okay, I have two questions here. No question.
Maybe we ask if they have any question, we ask them.
Yeah,
Oh,
please,
someone
Naila. Okay,
ya,
please.
someone raise her hand. Naila, boleh bahasa Indonesia, nanti kita bantu terjemah.
Yeah, because one-way communication normally is not very worth it. We have to have two-way communication. Okay, please, Naila.
Naila,
Okay.
boleh silakan.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Jadi sebenarnya memang agak bingung ya, Pak. Tapi kira-kira kan pas dilihat di pathway metabolisme itu kan kayak arahnya dua arah kan, Pak ya. Panahnya kan
Yeah.
dari dia keluar balik lagi ke situ berarti eh, apakah jumlah dari contohnya protein, asam nukleat, polisakarida dan lain-lain itu yang dikeluarkan akankah sama dengan yang kembali lagi di situ?
Okay, so the amount of utilize and go back
Iya.
is depend on your body.
Hmm.
So every single body, every single person have their own rate of metabolism. Because you can see that there are few of your friends take a lot of food, but they're not getting fat, right? Because their metabolism is very high. But some of you, when you take some food, easily getting sweat, berpeluh. Why? Because your start to produce the waste, which is the water. But some of you take a lot of food, then it's okay. There's no metabolism. It's not utilized for production of energy. You're not getting hot, but it is simply convert into the fat, for instance. Then you store in your adipose tissue. That's why this is depend on the single individual. Okay, so you can check. You can go to clinic or doctor to can see what is your metabolism rate. Is it normal or abnormal? Okay, because some there are consumption and conversion is equal, so they can maintain their body weight. But those who are normally tend to keep the carbo that they take, then you are getting fat. Okay? But can we change this one? Yes. How? Either through the exercise or through the taking of some cofactor. Within, when you exercise, then you take some cofactor, so the cofactor can trigger the catabolism, so that it can release more waste, the carbon dioxide and water. If you didn't exercise, if you take a lot of carbohydrate, then they will convert to lipids that is stored in your adipose tissue, that you're getting fat. Or for child, for instance, we didn't feed them with carbohydrate, right? But we feed them with protein. Why? The protein is needed to synthesize their cell. So that's why we feed child or your children's a lot of proteins. If you want your body to be, your infant to be gigantic, you feed them with a lot of protein. So your child soon will be very huge. It can be gigantic, bigger than you. So if you feed them with carbohydrate, normally they're just similar size with their parents. But you feed a lot of protein. That's why this a new generation now for this developing country. Their size is getting bigger compared to their parents because they have more protein compared to their parents. Because the parents take more carbohydrate rather than the protein. Okay, so these are the food consumption. Is if by understanding the metabolism, you can control the food consumption for development of your muscle and energy and everything. This is on the health perspective. We already 1 hour, isn't it? Okay, 30 more minutes. Good to go,
Yeah. Yeah, we can continue. You can continue the lecture.
Okay. Okay. Okay, now we go to
Glycolysis.
glycolysis. Okay, glycolysis can be divided into two phases. Okay, as I mentioned previously, we have to ask the 3W1H. So the first question is where the glycolysis take place. And then what are the substrate for the glycolysis? And then how the glycolysis are happen and why glycolysis are happen. Okay? So go back to the 3W1 high. So where the glycolysis take place? Glycolysis occur in cytosol of the cell. Then what are the substrates? The substrates are glucose. Some books they mention about hexose, but for me it's not really correct because for human, for instance, we cannot metabolize galactose. We only can metabolize glucose. So if you consume galactose as a source of your food, then you will not get energy because we don't have enzyme to metabolize galactose. If you take galactose, for instance, from the agar, you know agar?
Agar-agar.
Agar-agar.
Ya, ada susu ya? Susu ada galaktos?
Susu ada galactose juga. Fructose is another hexose. Okay, but they are not so huge. But the most food that normally people use as to control their diet is galactose from agar, which is from the carrageenan.
Oh,
Carrageenan from the seaweed.
yeah.
Seaweed. Ataupun what present in the market is a cocodinata, something like that. I think you know cocodinata. It is a galactose.
Nata de coco.
Nata de coco. Another way around. It's a galactose. So we just feel full in our stomach. We didn't get any energy because we are unable to convert to this galactose to energy. Okay. And then the glucose will simply split into pyruvate, which is this involved in two phase. Okay, let's go to detail. And then why this glycolysis is occur is, of course, we want to produce the end product of the glycolysis, which is the pyruvate and acetate and also the ATP. Okay, I think all these 4 questions already answered. Then you can go faster. Okay, these are the basic of the. So if you look here, these are the first phosphorylation occur, which is from the glucose, catalyzed by hexokinase. And then these are substrate phosphorylation. Then you can see here, this pathway is a one-way arrow, meaning that glucose to glucose 6-phosphate need energy, and then it's just one-way arrow, meaning that glucose 6-phosphate cannot go back to glucose through this enzyme. How to go back? They need another enzyme. Okay, and then another thing that give us a philosophy here, before you get energy, you need to use the existing energy. Okay, meaning that before we can get profit for any process, of course, you need to spend some money. That is the philosophy. Okay, you cannot get anything without spend some money. You have to spend some money before you can gain back your money. So more money you spend, then more money you get back. That's the philosophy that already teach us in the carbohydrate metabolism. Okay, from glucose 6-phosphate, it will be isomerized into fructose 6-phosphate by phosphohexoisomerase. Fructose is more sweet compared to glucose. And then long chains of fructose is inulin. Inulin you can get from the onion. But be aware of taking fructose too long because it can cause you diabetes. And then during one thing that which is not mentioned here, but you can write somewhere, any hexokinase, they need some cofactor, which is the magnesium and glucose still very, so you need to go to the pharmacy and buy the magnesium in order to proceed the glycolysis. So magnesium, we also need the mineral, some magnesium, or sometimes we also can replace magnesium with the manganese. Then from fructose to 6-phosphate, another ATP will be utilized. Then we produce fructose 1,6-bisphosphate, which is catalyzed by phosphofructokinase 1. That is another magnesium is required as a cofactor in this pathway. And then here you can see from glucose to glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, there are two regulatory sites. This one is from glucose to glucose 6-phosphate. The second one from fructose 6-phosphate to fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. These are the phase 1 of the glycolysis. Then fructose 6,1-bisphosphate then will be cleavage into glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate and dihydroxyacetone phosphate. These two molecules can be isomerized based on the condition. Okay, this is very straightforward. Then from that, we try to finish until pyruvate today. Glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate will be converted into 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. Then the enzyme here, the catalyst, is a glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase. Then you look here, what happens here? This is the oxidative and phosphorylation occur, where the NADPH will receive a proton, then we will obtain the NADH. NADH from cytosol here soon will be go into electron transport change for production of ATP. Remember, Okay, there are two pathways of transportation of NADPH from cytosol into the intermembrane space of mitochondria, which is glycerophosphate and malate aspartate shuttle. Okay, because NADPH cannot cross through the mitochondria membrane, but what they do is they just transfer the proton into another NAD from the intermembrane space so that they can proceed with the electron transport change. Okay, so because NADH cannot pass through the inner membrane of the cell, mitochondria, so they just pass the proton. So in this case, the proton is to be transported. Okay, from here, the first step on the production of ATP is from 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate through 3-phosphoglycerate, which is catalyzed by phosphoglycerate kinase. Substrate level phosphorylation, 1 ATP, and then isomerize. And then the second ATP produced is from the phosphoinopyruvate to pyruvate. Boleh? Okay. Now you look here. Actually, how many glyceraldehyde phosphate produced from one glucose? Any answer from the floor?
Ya, berapa yang dihasilkan dari satu glukus? Apa? Piruvat atau glyceraldehyde?
Glyceraldehyde triphosphate.
Ya, glyceraldehyde trifosfat berapa yang dihasilkan? Glukos berapa senyawanya, rumus senyawanya ya, misalnya C6H12O6, kalau glyceraldehyde 3 fosfat senyawanya apa sehingga bisa diperkirakan berapa? Dari harga C-nya wis. Gak apa-apa jawab, salah nggak apa-apa. Satu glukosa menghasilkan berapa glyceraldehyde 3 fosfat? Yang ini, biasanya kita ngomong GDP ya.
Yeah, you can pronounce in short form is okay, but I would love to pronounce is full because sometimes it will familiar with the pronunciation. Sometimes when we use the short form too frequent, your pronunciation sometimes will not improve. To improve your pronunciation, it's good to pronounce in full words rather than the short form. But of course, for memorizing, you can just short form. But if you want to improve your English, it's good to pronounce it in full so that you can train your tongue. Because tongue needs a training. So in order to train your tongue, you need to familiar with the pronunciation. Of course, when we write or we memorize, we just use normally G3P or something like that, right? But if to make sure your tongue is working, you need to speed up. Sometimes we don't want to speak out because we are shy, but don't be shy because it is or else you not improve your English because or else you just remain as you are. Okay. Okay, so if you look here, you go back, we have glucose. Glucose 6 carbon, 6 carbon. Glyceraldehyde triphosphate is 3 carbon, meaning that from one glucose, we have 3 molecule of glyceraldehyde triphosphate. Then from glyceraldehyde triphosphate to pyruvate, from one molecule of glyceraldehyde triphosphate, we will produce 2 ATP and 1 and 2 pyruvate. Betul? From one glyceraldehyde triphosphate, we produce 2 ATP and 1 pyruvate. The question is, if we use glucose or fructose, how many ATP and how many pyruvate will be produced? So we know that if you have glucose or fructose, we have 2 glyceraldehyde triphosphate, meaning that we will produce 4 ATP and 2 pyruvate. Okay, meaning here the substrate can be glucose or it also can be fructose. Instead of glucose to glucose 6-phosphate, you can have fructose. Then fructose terus go to phosphorylation kepada to fructose 6-phosphate. You can add the another pathway, fructose to fructose 6-phosphate. Of course, they also need ATP. Okay, so based on this one, you can see that from one molecule of glucose or fructose, you produce 4 ATP, 2 pyruvate. But remember, during the early phosphorylation, we need 2 ATP, right? So the net ATP from glycolysis actually is only 2 ATP. We produce 4, but before we produce 4, during the activation, we utilize 2, which is from the glucose to glucose 6-phosphate and from fructose 6-phosphate to fructose 1,6-base phosphate. But if the question asking how many ATP are released if we use fructose 6-phosphate as a substrate. So meaning that you will deduct only 1 from the total. So that is how the manipulation of the question can be occur. So meaning that if you use a free glucose, so you need 2 ATP as a you put your modal, and then you produce 4, but if you use fructose 6-phosphate, so you produce 4, but you minus 1, so the final will be 5, right? So that's the okay. So then finally you get 2 pyruvate. If you look here, in this pathway, I go back and forward because I want to show the regulatory site. 1 regulatory site, 2 regulatory site in the phase 1. But in the second phase, they have only 1 regulatory site, which is from the phosphoinopyruvate to pyruvate. So here, 3-phosphoglycerate can go back to 1,3-phosphoglycerate by utilize the ATP and produce the ADP. Okay? Of course, this should be some arrow go back here. Okay, then similarly here. Right? So overall, from the glycolysis, how many glycolysis sites? We have 3. Okay, 2 in the phosphorylation and 1 on the substrate phosphorylation. Okay. Okay. So the next one, okay, this is what I mentioned previously. Okay. So glucose plus 2 ATP plus 2 phosphate plus 2 NAD, 10 enzyme, similar enzyme lah, and double, 5 enzyme overall times 2. Now you get 2 pyruvate, 2 NADH, 2 water, 2 ATP. Where's the water go? Sweating. Okay, the sweating when you take food is from the only 2 from glycolysis. And then these 2 pyruvate will further metabolize. Either the presence of oxygen or the absence of the oxygen. Okay, if you don't have oxygen, then we go to the anaerobe. If they have oxygen, they go to the aerobe. Okay. Okay, so glycolytic neck reaction. Okay, glucose to ATP, use the last, produce 2 pyruvate, produce 2 ATP and 2 NADPH. These 2 NADPH will transported into electron transport chain for produce another ATP soon. Mean the Ibu Ana will tissue soon. Okay, so you must remember these 2 ATP from the first glycolytic is from the second phase of the glycolysis. Of course, another source of NADH is from the Krebs cycle, which is we use as a substrate for the Krebs cycle. Okay. So this is what happened. This is the summary. Okay, reaction. Okay, similar. It is a similar thing, but it's a different form of writing. Okay, I will email my lecture note to Ibu Ana, then you can get from Ibu Ana soon. Okay, it's easy. Of course, Ibu Ana also have some lecture note, but I think it's good to share mine also. Okay. I think that's all for today. If you have any question, so next week we continue with the lactate and Krebs cycle. So I think any question from the floor? I think if too much, you cannot focus.
Yeah. Not too much, maybe for student because it's something new and all
Yeah.
lecture delivered in English, so maybe new experience for them. Ada mau tanya? Do you have any question, student? This is real English class, not in. Yeah, this is a real because we have dosen dari luar, jadi benar-benar Englishnya harus dipakai.
Yeah, you have to practice, otherwise you will not improve your English.
Yes. Okay, Fatima, maybe you have any questions? Gak apa-apa, tanya aja, nggak perlu malu, don't be shy.
We don't care about your grammar as long as the your message is conveyed. It's okay. Because sometimes we are very busy with grammar. Forget about grammar. It just produce, or else we won't improve. I can see here. Who else? Or I will ask you. How many guys here in this class? Zaki Alfian, are you here or you just on the video?
Oh, Fatima already raised her hand.
Okay, Fatima, please. What is your question, Fatima? What is your
Okay, thank you for attention. Untuk yang dari hasil ATP-nya itu kan ada yang 36, ada yang 32, ada yang 34.
okay?
Itu kenapa ya, Mister?
I think we haven't talked about it. Ini masih glycolysis ya?
Yeah,
Yeah.
still glycolysis.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Tapi
I
nggak
can
apa-apa.
answer that. Okay, remember, So you're asking about the final products of the total after complete oxidation of the oxidation process, right? Sometimes we get 36, sometimes we get 38. I don't know which one you are using in your lecture, Ibu Ana, 38 or 36?
We haven't started the lecture yet.
Okay, listen. Okay, the
Yeah.
question is why sometimes we got 38, why sometimes we got 36? This is due to the process of transportation of NADH from cytosol into intermembrane space by certain cell in our body. Okay, because different cells have different shutter because there are NADPH that produced during the Krebs cycle, which is occur in a mitochondria. They can simply enter into the electron transport change. But you must remember, NADH also produced in the glycolysis, which is occur in the cytosol. Okay, there are two sources of NADPH. One is from glycolysis, from occur in the cytosol, and other is from the Krebs cycle occur the intermembrane space of the mitochondria. Okay? So the issue is now NADPH from the cytosol must be transported from the cytosol into the intermembrane space of the mitochondria. Okay, so this transportation they are using two shuttle. Some shuttle during the transportation they charge you. For instance, so these two shuttle, one is malat aspartate shuttle, another one is glycerol phosphate shuttle. So one of the shuttle they will charge you. That's why you have less ATP produced. So this is depend on the type of the muscle that involved during the involved in the production of the glycolysis. Okay, for instance, muscle, brain. We have muscle, brain, and heart. They are three different muscles. So they have two different. They have two shuttle. Okay. Okay. Soon I think that Ibu Ana will teach you these two shuttle. Which cell use which shuttle, then this will contribute to the less amount of ATP produced by certain tissue in our body. Okay, you get me, right? Okay. Any other question?
Okay, after Fatima, is there anyone have questions? Or maybe you can try to ask in English. Maybe we have the boys, we have wait. Hendrika, Taka.
These are the time you want to practice your English.
Taka,
Otherwise,
I
you
think Taka
won't.
can speak English. Taka has half Japanese. Taka?
Where,
Ayo,
where is Taka?
Takaisha. He's half Japanese.
Okay, Taka, please.
Taka?
Any question?
Or Rafa or Rafif? Rafa? Are you all sleeping?
I'm
Gimana
worried.
ini
Are they
cewek-cewek?
around or they just on the video
Yeah.
and they go somewhere?
Yeah, maybe Zaki. Zaki is actually master student, but I asked him to join your.
Okay, then he should be
Yeah,
improve a lot, right? So Zaki, any questions, Zaki?
Zaki, boleh Zaki.
Can you
Unmute.
follow me, Zaki?
I am actually. And honestly, for this course, I didn't have any idea of question yet because in my master I will use glucomannan, but in this course use the glucose or the base sugar, and so I didn't have anything to ask yet.
Glucomonad.
Yeah, glucomannan,
Glucomannan.
glucose and manosa.
Oh, glucose abanosa.
Yeah.
Okay. But you can follow my lectures, isn't it? I'm
Yeah,
trying to use the simple
am.
English as I can so that you can catch the words, because otherwise in my class I use a quite bombastic word, but in this class I try to reduce my slang and the pronunciation, but try to maintain the basic one. Okay.
Yes, your English is
Henrika.
very understandable.
Yeah, very
Um,
understandable. Just I have something technical with my connection here, so sometimes
Okay.
it's just lacking.
But never mind, you can get back the record from Ibu Ana, that you can follow, right?
Okay,
yeah,
thank
okay,
you, sir.
thank you, Rafif. Maybe Rafif already on cam.
Thank you so
Where is
much
she?
Rafif.
for Mrs. Anna and Mr. Aziz. So I have a question about the glycolysis. So when I try to understand what you tell us and explain to us about the glycolysis, I little bit curious about what's the difference when the glycolysis happens in an aerobic condition or in aerobic condition, and
Yeah.
what's the effect of that condition to the pyruvate that as a final product of the glycolysis. That's my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So what happened to the fate of the, okay, this is after the first cycle of the glycolysis, right? Okay, so you're talking about you're asking about the fate of pyruvates, the fate of pyruvates. So the fate of pyruvates is depend on the presence of oxygen or the absence of oxygen. In the presence of oxygen, the pyruvate will be converted to acetyl-CoA. In the absence of oxygen, the pyruvate will be converted into lactate or ethanol. Okay, so meaning here, the fate of pyruvates, where's the pyruvates go is depend on the presence of oxygen. If you have enough oxygen, meaning which is other in an aerobic condition, then the pyruvate will be converted into acetyl-CoA. If you don't have enough oxygen, then the pyruvate will go to lactate or anaerobic condition. Clear, Rafiq?
Clear.
And then when the lactate, the pyruvate is converted to lactate, the NADH that produced during the glycolysis will be used to produce the lactate. You get what I mean? Okay, so from the glycolysis anti-pyruvate, you produce 2 lactate, isn't it? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
2 lactate, but in anaerobic condition, which is the absence of the oxygen, these 2 lactate will be utilized to convert these 2 pyruvate to lactate by lactate dehydrogenase. Meaning here, these two lactate that produced from the glycolysis will not undergo to the electron transport change. So meaning that the net ATP produced is only from this one. Okay, if you look here, from the 2-pyruvate plus, this is the product from the glycolysis, 2-pyruvate, 2 NADPH, 2 ATP, right?
Right.
But this 2-pyruvate is in anaerobic. They will utilize this 2 NADPH to produce lactate. Then what is remaining is a 2 ATP, right? And then this 2 ATP, if you go back to the early one, that we also already used 2 ATP, right? So what is the net of the ATP under anaerobic condition? In a glycolysis, it should be 0.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Zero, because we use 2 before the during the process. We produce 2, but since the NADPH produced is utilized to convert the pyruvate to lactate, so that this NADPH will not enter into the electron transport change. But in aerobic condition, this 2 NADPH will produce 6. 6 plus 2 we got 8. Or 6 plus, or you have 4 plus 2 times 3, or 2 times 2, 4, 6. You can have 8 or 6. Okay, depend on the cell. In under aerobic condition, you can either have 6 ATP or 8 ATP, just from the glycolysis itself. We not count from the crab yet. Yeah? If you combine with the crab, of course, you get 38 or 36. If from the glycolysis itself, you can either have 6 or 8 based on the cell. Follow, eh? Can follow, eh?
Yes, yes. I can follow.
Okay. If you combine the glycolysis and crab, then you get 38 or 36. If you glycolysis only from the NADPH from glycolysis, straight away go to crab side, the electron transport chain, you can have only 6 or 8 ATP. But if this go anaerobic, there's no net ATP. Okay? Okay. Any more question? Any other siapa lagi tanya ni?
Yeah, okay. Thank you for your answer, Professor Aziz, and thank you, Rafif. You already tried to ask question. Maybe another student want to ask. Belinda. Oh, Belinda. Okay, Belinda raise hand. Okay, please have a go.
Thank you for the opportunity. So I wanted to ask, um, apa yang menyebabkan NAD+ dan NADH+ itu muncul? Apakah melalui glikolisis tersebut atau melalui cyclic Krebs? I'm still confused about that. So, apa peran dari NADH or NAD+, and apa hubungannya dengan ADP or ATP? Thank you.
Okay. Remember, the first thing that I mentioned, in any metabolic, you have to understand where it's occur, who are involving, which is the substrate, and then why they are occur. So now the issue is now we already have the substrate. The substrate which is the NADH, or NADH, for instance, right? Okay, produced from the glycolysis and produced from the Krebs cycle. Correct. So now the issue is, what happened to this NADH? Are they going to transport into electron transport change or not? Or it just remain there? So it's depend about how energy that we need. If you need a lot of energy, then this NADH must go or enter the electron transport chain so that we can produce more ATP. But if we don't need more energy, if you don't need, we mean that we have enough or sufficient energy. So meaning that the process we just stop until pyruvate. So meaning that we produce less NADH, right? So, or somehow we already enter the Krebs cycle where we produce a lot of NADH, right? So this NADH is a substrate used in the electron transport change. Okay, that's why I mentioned previously the regulatory side. We have to regulate how many energy we need. It depends on the amount of ATP we need. If we have enough energy so that the process will be terminated, then we will no accumulation of the NADH. Will not accumulate. If they are accumulate, definitely they will get transported into electron transport change. So mean that, for instance, when you are asleep, right? So you didn't move your muscle. So the metabolism will be slow. So maybe you just need a certain amount, a very small amount of energy so to make sure that you are alive. But when you are running, you do some exercise, for instance, right? You need a lot of energy. So meaning that from the glycolysis, they produce the pyruvate to acetyl-CoA, then from acetyl-CoA, they go to Krebs cycle, then they produce a lot of NADH. This NADH will convert to ATP through the electron transport change. You got what I mean, right? But during the sleep, you don't need much ATP because you are sleeping unless you're walking during the sleep, right? So then all this NADH should be, so that's why we must control our body by itself, they control the accumulation of the production of NADH. Once the NADH produced, the straight away bring to electron transport change. That's why sometimes during sleep, we're also sweating, right? Why? Meaning that your brain is working. Sometimes you are running during your sleep, right? It's a dog try to catch you during your sleep, right? Then you are running during in your sleep. That's why after you wake up, you are then you are sweating, right? Meaning that our cells are accumulating a high amount of NADH that we are producing ATP during our sleep. If you just sleep that's normal, then we just a small breath, then you don't need to produce a lot of NADH. So that's the link between the NADH accumulation and the production of the ATP. Okay? Any more question, Miss Ibu Anna? From your student, I think a couple more minutes.
Yeah,
or you want to stop share?
No. I'm not sure. Do you have any class at 9:20? Student? Ada? Ada kuliah setelah ini? Kuliah jam berapa?
No, ma'am. 10 10 lebih 15.
Oh, okay. Because this class from the schedule will end at 9:15. So 7:30 to 9:15 ya kuliah ini ya. 7:30 sampai 9:15, 9:15. 100 minutes ya. About 100 minutes. So yeah, not full 2 hours, but here is one credit is 50 minutes
Okay.
classroom in the class, yeah.
So I hope in the second class you should prepare more questions, then we can practice. I think if
Yeah.
I talk, I improve my English. Okay. If you're
Yes.
not talk, you're not improve your English.
Yeah,
I think what
okay.
I've been taught, what I've been told by Ibu Ana is that this class is to help to improve your English, not the subject matters, because the subject matter you can teach during using Indonesian language, right? But if you're not asking, then you're not practice. But you need somebody that you can communicate. I will love you all talk more than me.
Okay.
Or else
Okay,
I
next
will improve
week.
my English, then you will still remain as you are. So
Yeah.
I think the objective of this class is not achieved. I think that's all from me. I think, by the way, I will thank a lot for all of you and then good luck. And please practice. Don't be shy. Don't care about others. Discuss with your friend using English. Is broken English is fine. Nobody care. Eh? Because if you not practice, you not improve. Because the English is not our mother tongue. Eh? The English is not our mother tongue, but it's fine. Don't care. As long as your friend can understand you, your message is conveyed. Go ahead, bulldoze. Eh? Don't be shy. Because these are similar in Malaysia, but now they are changing in mind, because they already don't care. But we are very shy to talk. Please go ahead. Don't care. Then if you are good, then you're not supposed to be in this class, right?
Okay. Okay, so for next week, I hope more of you have more questions and more active, yeah, engaging in the lecture. Yeah, and then you can prepare the metabolism like this. So next week we still continue doing lecture in carbohydrate metabolism. Jadi yang this week kamu baca semua, nanti biar bisa ada pertanyaan untuk next week and practice your English, ya.
Yeah.
Meskipun baru satu semester di kelas, not satu semester ya, maybe 10 weeks kan, udah hampir 10 weeks ya di kelas E, jadi harus belajar terus Englishnya. Oke, see you next week. Link Zoom-nya tetap sama ya. Oke, for